listeners, and welcome to another episode of Get Smarter, an LC podcast. Today, we've got a really special episode for you. In past episodes, we've talked about digital transformation, Industry 4.0 technologies, and managing risk by making sure you have your foundations in place. Well, this episode today, we are going to talk to Dave Moreau, Managing Principal at Lifecycle Engineering, and Blake Foltz, Director of Reliability Solutions, about a customer that they're working with right now who's just getting started on their digital transformation journey, but they seem to have done it right. And special teaser, we're going to be able to talk again to this customer and this client partner in a few months. So without further ado, I'd like to say, Dave and Blake, welcome to Get Smarter. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Tara. Happy to be here.
Thank you very much, Tara.
So, like I said, in today's episode, we're going to be following a company's journey to achieve data readiness. So they've been preparing to implement new technology, and we are going to look at how this particular organization, with intention and with mindfulness, is able to maximize the asset management capabilities of new equipment and processes by ensuring that their CMMS, their maintenance management system, was in great condition. What did this do? This is helping them lower risk and ensure that they are well set up to implement new sensor technology and be able to actually effectively use predictive analytics. We'll talk about why did I say effectively use predictive analytics in this podcast too. We're going to talk a little bit about why they decided to invest in this technology in the first place. And about how they're partnering with LCE subject matter experts and using the LC Smarter platform. So for a full holistic platform to show what their equipment is doing and be able to analyze the equipment's performance. So enough about me talking. Let's hear Blake and Dave. I'll just jump into my first question, which is about this particular customer. What do you think was the catalyst for this organization to want to pursue predictive analytics as a better strategy for managing their operational risk?
So I could take that one, Tara. So
Thanks, Dave.
Sure. Essentially, this customer, they're a 24/7 operation. So they are basically manufacturing as much product as they can. For about the last 5 years at least, they've been capacity constrained. So, essentially, if they can make more product, they would sell more product. So, really strong business environment for this particular company. And the other thing that's interesting with them is they're going through, or they have been going through, a transformational change culturally from a maintenance and reliability perspective. So probably about 7 or 8 years ago and prior, they were very reactive, right? A lot of firefighting, basically waiting for equipment to break, then they go fix it, right? So over the past several years, they've been going through this change to really focus on more proactive approach to maintenance and reliability. So, I think between those two things coming together, so the recognition that they want to make this change culturally, but also their business environment, really help tee this up as a strong case for pursuing this predictive approach and proactive approach to maintenance and reliability.
Absolutely. It sounds like it's the right time. The business needs it and the culture is ready for it after moving for years from the firefighting reactivity, moving into a proactive environment. They are ready. Well, let's talk a little bit more. Let's dig into that a little bit more about getting ready. So could you share with me how the organizations, once they realize that that they want to implement sensors and try to pursue predictive analytics, how did they approach getting the site ready for this advanced technology? For example, how do you even know what data points you want to capture? What kind of value is that going to bring to the organization? And why did they choose sensor technology and advanced integrated technology to gather this information necessary? Blake, I'm going to aim that one at you.
Yeah, so just to kind of restate what Dave said, they've been on a journey for the last 7 to 8 years for reliability and moving from a reactive maintenance program to proactive. So over that period of time, they've done some of their data scrubbing, understanding to make decisions with data. It has to be valuable, as well as they have a keen understanding as far as the impact each asset or each department has on the revenue generation for the company. So
Mm,
when it came time to understanding what their critical assets were, they had a very high knowledge in terms of what those assets were, where it was applicable to place sensors to allow for continuous or routine maintenance, or not maintenance, but observation. And
mm-hmm.
so when it came time to pick a technology, sensors just kind of lend themselves easily because they can be continuous routine monitoring of those said assets and can avoid extremely costly downtime events because we can predict when things are going to happen and we have time to react.
Right. So I love this. So this organization didn't just jump on the bandwagon of, what's the coolest new thing, coming down the pipe. They actually understood what assets are critical to their value stream. And then how do those assets behave and what technology is going to be the best fit. So again, I just think that's another example of one of the best practices that this organization is taking in partnership with LCE. Now, you did say something though about making decisions based on data. And if there's one thing that we've talked about in this podcast before, but also that's just pervasive in the industry, is that going this route is going to result in a lot of data being generated and a lot of data being collected. And that's pretty much where people stop a lot of the time, right? Like, oh, we're going to get all this information, but what what is a plan that you would recommend? What is a plan that um y'all have helped this organization see for how to manage that information? I mean, LCE might call this, or we have called this, in some of our publications, data readiness and data preparation. So what could you tell me about um how manage managing that amount of data, that sort of information, um, could be simple and yet meaningful? Is that even possible? Like, can you have a good plan? Is that even possible?
Yeah, so I think you bring up a really interesting point, Tara, because, a lot of times companies will see this flashy new technology, right? Or their boss's boss or somebody, right, will be at a conference and they'll see this really cool new sensor or new software and they'll say, hey, we need to go implement that, right? And sometimes they get it, they turn it on and it just starts generating data and, you're not sure the quality of it. You're not sure like, where's it going, who's reviewing it. So, one of the things we worked with this company on was, really ensuring that their CMMS, for instance, was the single source of truth for
Mm,
their asset data, right? So they sent teams out, they cleaned up their data, like Blake mentioned earlier. Um, but bringing that back to the CMMS and making sure that the make, model, serial number, all of the information in there is correct is really the foundation, because some of that information then needs to be transferred to the artificial intelligence or machine learning platform that these sensors are going to provide data to. So
right.
there's really the initial step, okay, of your critical assets, or preferably all of your assets, right? Clean up your data, get your asset registry cleaned up. But then, from there, going into the predictive maintenance platform and the proactive maintenance approach, you're going to need a few different things, right? So you're going to need some of the basic information about the assets. What types of drivers are they? What are the driven components? What does essentially the powertrain look like for
Mm-hmm.
these different assets? But then you're also going to need to have information regarding what's a common failure mode, or what are some of the bad actors or recurring failures that you're seeing, with the individual assets that you're targeting, because it's not intended that this technology be applied to everything. It's really ideal if you target it towards critical assets, and assets you're really going to start to see business value from as you preventing failures and taking this more proactive approach. So really there's the two systems. There's the CMMS as well as the software platform that the sensors are going to ultimately feed data to. And you need to, some of the information crosses over, but you typically would have to fill out a couple different templates for the import of the information to each of those systems.
Right, because if you're teaching, well, first of all, let's back up. So it's no small feat to clean up asset data. It is no small feat. I can only imagine I mean, just letters, numbers, just it's a lot to think about. But and time. But that's an investment, because if you're investing in this software or in this platform that's going to be machine learning, you have to feed it with good information, right? What's that age old adage, garbage in, garbage out? I mean, Blake, do you want to talk to me a little bit more about that, about, the data itself and what that meant for this company to be able to have those two primary systems, one with
Mhm.
the equipment data and all those descriptions, and then the next that's going to optimize, that's going to learn all of that history and that story, and then is going to try to make some information back to the plan. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so this company has had the last couple of years where they integrated a visual dashboard to basically display all the data that they're generating from their CMMS. And initially, it sounded like an amazing idea, and still today it is. However, it highlighted a lot of that, what you talk about, garbage in, garbage out. It had their reliability and equipment engineers chasing down ghosts in the system because perhaps a maintenance technician forgot to log out of a downed asset and it's showing hundreds of hours of downtime
Oh
because
no.
they logged in on a Thursday and they came back on a Tuesday type scenario.
Oh
So
my gosh. Yeah, I wouldn't even
the
thought of that. Yeah.
the creation of the visual dashboard just kind of put it in front of everybody to see, what the overall performance was at any level that you'd like to have. And it caused changes in procedures and documentation of work to ensure that the information that is being collected via the CMMS or any integrated predictive technology would be trustworthy.
Yeah.
Without being able to trust it, you're going to spend a lot of time and effort and money chasing something that might not actually be a problem. So they had a couple of years to work through this. Unfortunately, they are into their fourth or fifth CMMS integration, which one is painful enough. But
Oh yeah.
each integration, they've taken lessons learned and made sure that the foundational elements, I think David mentioned that a little earlier, that the foundation is properly established before going heads full steam into something. So they've definitely taken their time. They're working through a new launch of a CMMS for the last year now. And this one had a requirement to be readily accessible by uh, external sensors, external predictive technologies to consolidate all the information to make it easier to make decisions.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think that really sets expectations, and it also says a lot about the leadership for giving the crews and the teams the time to be able to get their data in the, in the shape that it needs to be able to be that single source of truth, to be able to give a realistic picture. Because like you said, imagine all the red herrings, and that doesn't elicit trust, right, in the workforce, or the people who are having to, look at the results of this, and well, it says that there's an impending failure here. Oh, really? I don't really need to do anything like that. That thing pops up all the time. It's no big deal, so you have to try to get people to understand and trust what they're looking at in terms of the data. So I think that's, maybe a critical success factor for a project like this. Um, Dave and Blake, either of you, what if you're thinking about other critical success factors, what are a few that you would pull out from our conversation, or that you just thinking about for this pilot program? What are some things that just are going to really pave the way for a successful pilot?
Well, I think, ultimately the solution or the success factor, if you will, has to generate business value, right?
Mm,
So, we're confident the platform works, right? We have done due diligence and looked at different platforms, right? And we know the system when it detects a high vibration or detects a high temperature or some sort of different ultrasonic profile, right? And it's really easy to get wrapped up in all those technical details that are fun. But at the end of the day, right, those failures are leading indicators essentially for business loss events, right? Equipment
mhm.
failures. So, it's good to monitor and trend and track, right? How many events happened, how many alerts came up, what did we do to investigate those, and have the maintenance activities and the planning process, in sync with those alerts. But at the same time, after we look at that for a month or a quarter or even a year, we really need to focus on what's the business value being generated, right? Because it's an investment, right? The data cleanup's an investment, like you mentioned earlier. The software is an investment. The sensors are an investment. So it just makes sense, right? We want to make sure we're getting value, and the value can be enormous, right? Typically, downtime for most companies, and for this company in particular, very large amount of money per hour, right? They have a very high monetized loss in terms of downtime. So, that's where the money's at. What did we
Mhm.
prevent? What failures didn't happen because we now have this system in place? So one of the keys here is having that communication mechanism up the chain, right? So to your boss and your boss's boss and the management, and the ability to report this out on a periodic basis to say, yes, this is taking effort. Yes, this costs some money, but the value of this and the gains we're getting from it far exceed, what we're putting in.
Absolutely. Being able to monetize that failure avoidance, that gets attention,
Mhm.
right? But I think you make a very good point about being able and ready and able to communicate that to leadership. So okay, so we talked about the financial success and how we want to be prepared to show and communicate that. Are there any other, measures of success that, maybe from a program perspective that would want to be considered for a pilot project like this?
Well, in conjunction with what Dave was saying from a financial perspective, but we're looking for a reduction in overall cost and downtime, and some of those measures that we would use would be your mean time between failure and our
Mm-hmm.
mean time to return to service. So those will be some of the metrics that we'll be tracking, but I think the more important one is the confidence from the team that the investment is worth it, right? Dave kind of hit that as well. If
Mm-hmm.
we install a whole bunch of sensors and nobody believes in the information coming out of it, or no one's reacting to it, then it was essentially a waste of money. So the confidence being built in the program and the sensor performance would be our highest indicator of success, because they can trust it, they can make decisions, and LCE is going to continue to support in that aspect for this customer in the analysis and training to understand what some of these events actually mean and
Mm-hmm.
what reactions need to take place, whether it's fully integrated in the CMMS or there needs to be a communication chain that needs to be executed upon to correct the issues that are being found.
So I think what I'm hearing you say is that we're actually going to be seeing some impacts to work planning and scheduling as well, right? Because wouldn't that be one of the outcomes of understanding the what the analysis, what the subject matter experts, the LC subject matter experts and the guidance that they're giving of, okay, this needs to be done, this needs to be done, but actually seeing that happen in the work management system and seeing the action is being taken and what results that gets. Did I understand that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Um, so let's dig into that a little bit more. in terms of planning and scheduling best practices. So we just talked a little bit about it right there, but are there some other best practices, or I guess foundational aspects of work planning, scheduling, execution, closeout? By the way, that entire gold standard process is featured in the LC Smarter Playbook platform, along with step definitions and process flows. If you would like to learn more about a best practice work management process, but with regards to this pilot, sensor program, how is that manifesting into changes or impacting their work management program?
Well, one of the things that we're all short on is time, right? So planning
Amen.
your work and planning and scheduling your work is one of the most critical things that you have in terms of a maintenance strategy, and understanding an asset's full impact on a business allows you to prioritize the work effectively. So because we have limited time, we have to focus our effort on the greatest impact from a positive and negative perspective for a company in question. So the use of predictive technology and analytics allows us to plan work before a critical failure occurs. We can see things before anything is interrupted. It allows us that time to use some of those step definitions and work process flows that you're talking about to plan ahead, plan to when it's going to be the least disruptive to the organization, the department, or wherever it's at, and create corrective actions and implement a solution rather than one of the adages that we usually hear is a Band-Aid or a short-term correction. Take the time. We have the time with predictive analytics and predictive technologies to determine what we need to do and when we need to do it before a large issue occurs.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Thank you for that. I want to shift gears a little bit to talk about something that I know life cycle engineering takes very seriously, which is coaching and education, and especially those aspects of our subject matter experts and our consulting engagement to help our client partners reach their full potential. So education, coaching, training, it's included in all of our engagements. But I want to talk about this particular implementation. And what role do you think education will play in ensuring that the entire site, not only the people who are directly involved in the implementation or receiving, the analysis from our SMEs, but the entire site, to understand the benefits of reliable operations and to understand the benefits of the investment that the organization is making into this proactive new technology?
Yeah, so Tara, kind of like we talked earlier, as part of that transformational change, this company in particular takes education very seriously. And
there you go again. I'm telling you, there's a best practice client partnership.
it definitely is. I mean, so the small investment, right, that they make in having the reliability engineers go through university-backed certification programs through Lifecycle Institute, the maintenance planning and scheduling certification, and the maintenance management, right? So even if you're not the person looking at the sensor data every day and seeing this information coming in, you understand how it fits into the bigger picture, right? So whether you're a planner scheduler, like we were just talking, or you're a maintenance technician, right? You start to understand how the information and the work you do every day and the information you put in to document that work, feeds reliability analytics and starts to contribute to metrics that get reported, right? So we can target assets to make improvements, target assets for this type of technology to be deployed on. And then, once we get the information, right, the reliability engineering team knows what to do with it. They know how to react to it. They know, how to analyze the failures and perform root cause analysis to really understand what are the unique causes of all these failure modes. So, the education work that this company has done with Lifecycle Institute and the universities that we work with, is really helping see benefit pretty much immediately, right? Because they know what to
Mm-hmm.
do with the information. They know what to do with it when they get it, and they know how to take action. And again, they just understand how it fits together from the different work stream perspective. So it's definitely helped this implementation having that educational foundation and background.
Great. That's awesome. Thank you, Dave. So we've talked about quite a lot in this episode. I'm gonna do a roundup of what I think are some of my key takeaways. But before we do, I'd like to know if either of you or both of you have any advice that you'd give to other organizations looking, curious about, ready for, or just looking to implement a similar initiative and embrace smart manufacturing and smart manufacturing practices. Any advice or any pitfalls or challenges that they should definitely be aware of?
The team that we're working along with is not alone in their experiences. Like I had mentioned before, they're on their fourth or fifth CMMS, and each one has been better than the next. A little bit more research has been done. So the overarching concept would be is do your research on solutions and partners. Picking the incorrect solution or the incorrect partner can create a significantly negative outlook for the improvement effort, which in the long run costs more money, but it also sets you back. It could be months, it could be years,
Mm,
because now there's a negative perspective on the change that you're trying to drive. From a data readiness perspective, if your CMMS can't handle the amount of data or the details that you want, that's just going to be a lot more work when you integrate a new CMMS or you try to make it work with your current one. And so the main thing there is doing the research on the solution and any partners that you can associate yourself with to ensure that confidence is there, is that this solution or this partner is going to be the right one for us, and we're not going to have to do this again 2, 3, 5 years down the road. This is the solution, this is the partner, and we're going to be better for it. All the work that we do will be beneficial rather than redone in a couple of years.
no, absolutely. Absolutely. I think you touched on a couple of really key points there. Dave, anything to add?
I would just say, in terms of performing due diligence, right? There's a lot of solutions out there today. There's a lot of companies that offer sensors. There's a lot of companies that offer software. We work with other companies, obviously, as well, and they might have a different perspective, right? And they do have a different perspective where they may already have sensors in place, so they want a software platform that's going to help them advance to a more predictive and proactive approach. This particular company was looking for both. They needed the sensor technology and they needed the software platform. But I think just understanding your requirements is really key. So
Mm-hmm.
what kind of communication requirements do you have? Where are the sensors going? Are they in remote locations? Are they in locations where Wi-Fi may not be available? So, this particular company we're talking about today actually, tried one particular sensor technology that didn't work out first. And, they learned a lot from that. I think it was a beta type technology several years ago, but this time around, has done a lot more due diligence, involved partners, like Blake said, that have a track record. So the question isn't around the solution and whether the technical side of it is going to work. It's more, we can focus on the organizational change management piece and the engineering business process piece. But it really boils down to make sure the solution fits your needs, Make sure it's, that if you're looking for sensors that, you understand what environments they're going to work in and all the technical details that go behind that. The software platform, make sure it's user friendly, or if you have data scientists, make sure you can import your own models, for instance. So just understanding all those different requirements is really key. And then, do your homework, right? Just make sure that you understand what the proven solutions are, what some of the emerging solutions are. And then the only other thing I would say is I think having some sort of integrated platform where your business processes and your reliability data is and your analytical data, trying to boil it into a platform like LCE Smarter, like you mentioned earlier, Tara, right? It's a platform that has the education, the processes, the analytical piece, pulled into it. So people don't have to necessarily be going to 10 different websites for 10 different,
Sure.
right? It becomes,
Logging into 10 different places with 10 different passwords.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's hard
no,
to manage. And you kind of want that reliability hub or that asset management hub
sure.
nation. So, okay, if I have a need for information, or I want to pull up the latest chart with live data, here's where I'm going for that. So you're not trying to pull open different BI files or things like that. It's just nice to have it in one location.
No, I think that's a good segue to some things that I wanted to call out for our listeners from our episode today. First of all, it's very powerful to have that online system that can drive and support the reliability and operations program, especially if you're going through a change in your organization. One place that curates the education across the enterprise, and so everybody can speak the same language, of reliability across multiple sites across the enterprise. Also, let's go back to the very beginning, of our talk about data readiness, and being intentional and mindful about having your data in order prior to embarking on any sort of advanced technology effort. And that the organization has identified specifically how better equipment or better equipment health and production data is going to serve their overall operations and their asset management strategy. Another call out was do your research, do your due diligence, have your requirements in order with regards to the solutions that are going to be the right fit and the partners who are going to be the right fit. I know Dave, you in particular, and Blake, that we have been asked by some client partners to help them with that. And so to have those trusted partners and advisors that can help you, navigate all of the litany of partners and solutions, that are out there. So to seek guidance from those experienced partners. And that education, you need to educate your entire sites on the benefits and advantages and the value of good data and of being good data stewards. Also just about what an increasingly more reliable and proactive organization feels like and runs like and works together like, and to make sure that you're communicating all that. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today, and for sharing your experience with this particular organization, the right things that they've done. I know it's the beginning of this project, it's the beginning of this pilot. It's very important. Y'all have mentioned that there was a misstep before. So it's important to the organization that this one shows the value, builds some trust in the organization, and gets the organization moving in the right direction, gets more product out the door in a 24/7 operation that's perfect for sensor technology implementation. So I'd like to ask y'all if in a few months, if we can come back and check on this project and see how things are going, and you can let us know if all this preparation and foundational readiness has paid off. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Looking forward to it. And yeah, looking forward to sharing more information then, and some real life scenarios of how it goes. Absolutely.
All right. Well, you heard it here, listeners. Stay tuned because we're going to have a follow-up episode. I don't know, maybe two. We'll see. We will see. So stay tuned, listeners. And thank you, Dave and Blake, again for coming on the show and sharing your experience. And for all of you listeners out there, stay smart.